Welcome, age of vintage society. If any performer can truly be said to have carved out his own comedic turf, made a huge success out of it lasting over several decades, while completely owning that piece of turf, lock, stock and barrel, then that performer would have to be Jimmy Durante. There never has been, nor is there ever likely to be, a stylistic school of Durante. The man and his character are of one piece and ingrained in the national consciousness to the extreme. Why was Jimmy Durante the only man without an enemy in showbiz? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. His famous schnozola, his raspy voice, his unique vocabulary, his sunny personality, his piano playing, these are but some of the things we remember about Jimmy Durante. His pineapple nose, gravel voice and fractured English captivated 3 generations of Americans, from New York club audiences to the millions who heard his trademark TV sign-off, "Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are." Anyone foolish enough to start appropriating any part of his act would be immediately branded as a slavish imitator, someone just merely doing Durante, while all was being doomed to comparison with the one and only real deal schnozola, and again falling well short of the mark. On the surface, Durante's mega success defied all commonly understood show business laws. No one with such a gravelly voice should have been able to put over a song as well as he did. No one as ugly as him should have made as much profitable hay as he did about being that ugly, and parlaying those looks into a movie career at that. No one wore rumpled suits and a beat-up fedora, covering that little hair he had left, smoked a cheap cigar, and mangled the English language with more charm and hilarity than he. No one won the hearts of his audience by simply being himself, a comic everyman from the poor side of town, than did one Jimmy Durante. He didn't sing good, he didn't look good, and he had the audacity to keep bringing it up. He dressed like a bum and couldn't say a complete sentence without screwing up some or all of the words. Not much of a show business resume on the surface of it, but Durante's unclonable charm gathered its main strength from being just that, an average guy who, as one critic put it, acted like a heckler from an audience who had finally decided he could do a better job himself, and, upsetting all conventional show business decorum, had snuck into the spotlight. There was not one subtle thing about Jimmy Durante, whether it was wrecking a piano and throwing the resultant debris at the audience, singing a song like "I know darn well I can do without Broadway, but can Broadway do without me?" or doing a complete about-face and providing a brief glimpse of the wistful side of his character. He tapped the deepest of emotions every single time, and did it at full bore. He was born James Francis Durante on February 10th, 1893, into an Italian community on Manhattan's Lower East Side, just a stone's throw away from Chinatown. His family had immigrated to America from Salerno, Italy, and his father was a barber. He showed an early propensity for the piano, and this indeed is his least recognized talent. His parents had early aspirations for him to enter the classical field with his talent, but even the small child version of Durante was already carving his own path. "My professor tried to make me play poet and peasant. I played maple leaf, popularity and wild cherries. I couldn't do nothing else then, and I can't do nothing else today." Durante dropped out of 8th grade to pursue ragtime piano. Initially he started playing with a cousin. Both of them used to perform only for the family, but Durante realized the far reach of his talent. He began playing piano in tough clubs and telling jokes, even though he was afraid people would laugh at me. But audiences only laughed with Durante as he assaulted the English language and warbled the dizzy songs that made him a star on Broadway, radio, movies and TV. Those who heard him in his pre-comedy days of working around Harlem clubs and Coney Island clip joints spoke in high praise of a white ragtime piano man who was the finest of his kind. Nobody of his skin colour had a more African-American feel for the ivories as Ragtime Jimmy, his original stake moniker. His left hand was a law unto itself, while his right hand could combine it to make early 20th century ragtime achieve the status of American art. He was that good. As the singing waiters inside Diamond Tony's, a typical Coney Island saloon, went through their paces, one of them being a young Eddie Cantor, it was the 17-year-old Durante's job to collect all the small tips the waiters would kick his way. He had the reputation of being able to collect every bit of chump change that came rolling his way while never missing a beat. Cantor was the best nickel kicker at Coney Island. His development as an entertainer of true genius with the help of friends such as Cantor and Eddie Jackson. His trademark routine of breaking into a song to deliver a joke with orchestra chord punctuation made him famous in the 1920s. His jokes about his nose included referring to it as schnozola, and the word became his nickname, and used his pride in the appendage as the focus of many of his comedy routines. The act was an immediate hit, working every speakeasy around New York. He still wasn't singing or talking or telling jokes in the act yet, just playing his piano in his more than energetic style. Legend has it that Durante was a shy man, unwilling to draw attention to himself because of the merciless teasing he had taken as a child about his looks. The majority of this taunting primarily focused itself on the size of his nose, which became even larger after a pack of schoolyard bullies broke it and it mended incorrectly. It was his friend Eddie Cantor who encouraged him to stand up while playing and start throwing insults at his drummer to break up the act. The die was cast. The act was certainly getting noticed, but Durante certainly wasn't getting rich from his success. After pulling down a mere $100 a week at the Club Nightingale, he was convinced by a waiter at the club, friend Frank Nolan, that with his own club he could become a millionaire in no time flat. Durante found a loft above a used car dealership in downtown Manhattan and started looking for partners. Nolan was aboard, and so was singing waiter Eddie Jackson and his song and dance partner Harry Harris. The four men started one of the most notorious and legendary speakeasies of the Prohibition era, the Club Durante. Its odd spelling, so legend has it, the simple result of the partners running out of money for the extra E on the neon sign. Despite Durante's notable local following, the club was not an immediate hit, but one of the regular clients was Lou Clayton, pretty big stuff in vaudeville circles as a soft-shoe dancer. Clayton saw potential in the venture, especially as a springboard for showcasing the largely unused comic talent of Durante. Buying out Harris's share and joining forces with Clayton and Durante on stage, the three men came up with an act that made the audience packed into the tiny club feel like they were in the middle of a very violent cartoon, or all three acts of a three-ring circus. As noted critic John Fisher pointed out, the extraordinary gusto of their comic performance, as it bounced from one to the other, with Jimmy storming backwards and forth, always the centre of attraction, set a standard for improvised cabaret humour that has never been surpassed. It would be inaccurate to say that they pulled out all the stops, but only for the simple reason that in their crazy world the stops were inexhaustible. The team of Clayton, Jackson and Durante would form a friendship of immense loyalty that lasted long after they stopped performing together as a unit, indeed, till death did they part. Durante's first wife was the former Jean Olsen, whom he married on June 19, 1921. She died on Valentine's Day in 1943, after a lingering heart ailment of about 2 years. She was 46 years old. Her death was not immediately expected, as Jimmy was touring in New York at the time, and returned to Los Angeles right away to complete funeral arrangements. His MGM movie contract found him initially teamed with fading silent star Buster Keaton, although it was reported that the two men didn't enjoy working together, each feeling the other one was impeding their own personal styles. They made a number of fine films together, including 1932's Speak Easily. In 1934, his innovative composition Inka Dinka Doo became a super hit record. The lyrics for which were written by Ben Ryan, and Durante composed the music. Inka Dinka Doo stuck with him as his theme song for life. For much of his career, Durante bracketed his appearances with his theme song and his somewhat mysterious sign-off phrase, "Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are." Much speculation over the years as to the meaning of the phrase was settled by Jimmy's explanation in 1966 that Mrs. Calabash was his nickname for his first wife, Jean Olsen. Later, Durante starred on Broadway in the Billy Rose stage musical Jumbo, in which a police officer stopped him while leading a live elephant and asked him, "What are you doing with that elephant?" Durante's reply, "What elephant?" was a regular showstopper. Durante also appeared on Broadway in Showgirl, Strike Me Pink, and Red Hot and Blue. His other film credits include Hollywood Party, Roadhouse Nights, Student Tour, George White's Scandals, Cuban Love Song, Music for Millions, It Happened in Brooklyn, and The Milkman. The Durante Schnozola also made several cameo appearances in assorted Walt Disney and Warner Brothers cartoons of the period, truly becoming a national star, an instantly recognizable comedic icon. By the late 40s he was on radio with his own show, sometimes working with partners as varied as Alan Young and Gary Moore. Recreating Club Durante with Eddie Jackson for television brought Durante to a whole new audience who had never seen him work in a nightclub setting, and proved to be enormously successful. Even though it was a variety show in the traditional sense, bringing on guest stars like Bing Crosby, Al Jolson, Eddie Cantor, Sophie Tucker, etc. Durante's manic energy combined with his established character made for an hour of TV unlike any other. Many of the old songs and routines were recycled for this new audience, but the biggest change in Durante's act came with the show's closing. Instead of his trademark head-waggling, fedora-shaking hot cha-cha set closing walk-off, the new TV ending was a far more sombre affair. A Night with Durante ended with him walking into successive spotlights, each one further away than the other, till he disappeared. Turning to both the studio and the unseen television audience and delivering the immortal line, "Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are." Durante could do outrageous slapstick and tug at an audience's heartstrings with equally consummate ease. The 60s saw him busy as ever with more TV projects and a great deal of nightclub work. Although his character stayed the same, his twilight years imbued it with an old man wistfulness that made him even more lovable. Durante married his second wife, Margaret Margie Little, in 1960. As a teenager with her gorgeous red hair and undeniable charm, Margie had been crowned Queen of the New Jersey State Fair. They met 16 years before their marriage, when he was performing there, and where she worked as a hat check girl. She was 41, he 67, when they married. With the help from their attorney, Mary G. Rogan, the couple was able to adopt a baby, Cecilia Alicia, nicknamed Cece, and now known as Cece Durante Bloom, on Christmas Day 1961. At the age of 70, his recordings of old standards, issued by Warner Brothers as September Song, became an unexpected top 40 album hit in 1963. He made his final film that same year as Smiler Grogan in Stanley Kramer's It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World, where his cameo deathbed statement had him literally kick the bucket. He had worldwide popularity not only to his singular talents, but to his kindness, generosity and courtesy, an assessment backed up by the affectionate reminiscences of Frank Sinatra, George Burns, Marlene Dietrich, Ethel Merman, Betty Davis, and a host of other admirers. Numerous anecdotes portray the schnoz as a man without an enemy, a rare phenomenon in showbiz. He wasn't the funniest comedian, he wasn't the best actor, he did not have the best voice. However, his sunny personality and great outlook on life came out in everything he did, and he delighted audiences for well over 50 years. Regarding his personal side, Durante also was very charitable. For the most part, none of his selfless acts for those less fortunate made the presses. Jimmy's love for children continued through the Fraternal Order of Eagles Children, who, among many causes, raise money for handicapped and abused. At Jimmy's first appearance at the Eagles International Convention in 1961, Judge Bob Hanson inquired about his fee for performing. Jimmy replied, Do not even mention money, Judge, or I'll have to mention a figure that'll make you sorry you brought it up." "What can we do then?" asked Hansen. "Help the kids," was Durante's reply. Unfortunately, he was plagued with ill health for the last 9 years of his life, and he died largely forgotten in 1980. Durante's increasing frail condition worsened through the rest of the 60s. In 1970 he had a stroke which confined him to a wheelchair and relegated his performing days to old film clips and scrapbooks. His circle of friends and old cronies stayed with him to the end, regardless, until his heart ceased on January 20th, 1980. Jimmy Durante was so much more than Inca Dinka Doo, and he was one of the most beloved men in show business. However, he has left a lasting legacy. When Jimmy died, one of his biggest fans, comedian Bob Hope, reflected on the success of his departed friend. Success can be measured by the friends one has, and believe me, Jimmy Durante was the most successful man I know of. Now join his other fans in remembering the life and times of the inimitable Jimmy Durante. If any comedian could truly be called a one-of-a-kind, then Jimmy Durante deserves that accolade, and much, much more. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Jimmy Durante? He was Hollywood's small man with the big nose, known to his fans forever as Schnozola.